Welcome to MarcusG.TV. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano, and I'm a chef on a mission. Today's mission is how to get your kids to eat right. Now, I have lots and lots of videos on YouTube on this subject, on how my kids, what I've done with my kids, and some tricks and tips to get your kids to eat right. And it's no simple task, and it doesn't just happen one day. It happens over the course of your child's life. It happens on a daily basis. And most parents are not willing to do that. So, here's a comment from one of my videos. How much sugar is in soda and beverages? Okay, so I have a comment here. Okay, I just want to start off by saying I don't mean to be disrespectful at all. Everything that I'm about to say comes from complete honesty and experience. Number one, I'm sure your intentions pretty much cutting out all sugar from your kid's diet is completely good, but I am here to tell you that it's just plain stupid. When your child finally moved out of your house or even goes to stay at a friend's, they're going to find sugar and consume as much of it as possible behind your back, especially if you cut it out completely. Number two, that fake sugar crap you speak of, it's not good for you either. It's okay to have regular white sugar in moderation. So I have no idea what video this person has really watched of mine, but let's address number two first. Fake sugar crap. I am anti-fake sugar crap. I am anti-Sweet and Low, anti-Splenda. I'm anti all of that. The only 0-calorie sweetener that I happen to like is stevia. And stevia can be, it can be a crapshoot. You have to really understand the brand that you're buying. You just can't go to the grocery store and buy any old stevia. There can be genetically modified because it'll have corn syrup solids in it. Stevia is so sweet and so powerful that it has to be buffered with other things, such as corn syrup solids. So just to think that you're buying stevia and not having any calories or anything else is wrong. You really need to do your research and understand. You can grow your own stevia in most parts of America. You have to wait until the ground is warmer than 50 or 55 degrees because it will die. It is a very tropical plant. But here in New York, I've had stevia plants that have grown 6 feet tall. You can harvest the leaves in the fall, dry them, and use them in your tea, and use them to sweeten all kinds of beverages. So I don't know where she says that the stuff that I'm talking about, the fake sugar crap, and sugar in moderation, white sugar in moderation. Is smoking in moderation good? Is drinking a shot of whiskey in moderation good? Is taking mercury in moderation good? Once it's a poison is always a poison, no matter how much you take of it. And I know some of you are going to argue and say, well, you could die from water by drinking too much water. Well, you can die from a lot of things like that. But the bottom line is water's not toxic to you at the 1 glass level. At the 5,000 glass level for the day, yes, it's toxic to you, or it's going to cause adverse effects. It's going to drown you. Okay? But when you're talking about things like white sugar is a poison to begin with. It is a highly refined, a highly addictive processed food. It's more addictive than cocaine. They've done this experiment with lab rats and have given lab rats the choice of either water, sugar water, or cocaine, and the rats go back for the sugar water. It's extremely addictive. So, whether it's white sugar, whether it's saccharin, whatever it is, it's a small amount, it's still toxic. Okay, that's the bottom line. So to say white sugar is good in moderation or okay in moderation is totally wrong. You're still going to have effects on your immune system. As soon as you inhale 1 granular of white sugar, your immune system is going to create a response. One of the health gurus that I follow, Gary Null, he talks about an experiment in one of his radio shows where he did it at the Applied Biology Institute in New York, or I'm not sure if that's the exact name of it, Applied College of Biology, something like that, when he was there. And they simply put sugar in their hand. Simply put sugar in their hand and noticed that there was an immune response from just holding granulars of sugar in the palm of your hand. Your body could figure out that there was an enemy invading. So, 0 white sugar, zip, zilch, 0, it's refined, okay? That's the bottom line. Now, other people are going to say, well, how about agave, and how about maple syrup, and how about date sugar, and how about, and brown sugar, and muscovado sugar, and this and that. Those are slightly better sugars, but because people classify those as less refined sugars, people think that it's a license to abuse them, drastically, and that's really not the case. Sure, maple syrup and sure palm sugar, which has a lot of nutrients in it and fiber, that has a lot more benefits than white sugar. But because people think, oh, this is a healthier sugar, that it's a right to abuse it, and it's not a right to abuse it. It's still a right to use it in moderation if you're going to use it at all. Now, I like to sweeten my smoothies with either bananas or soaked dates or soaked figs. It makes a fantastic sweetener. A lot of those sweeteners, in fact, in a lot of raw food, raw cooking preparations to make desserts, you actually use soaked dates, you use soaked figs, you use sweeteners like that. Some of them use agave, some of them use honey, some of them use maple syrup. So a lot of the recipes vary differently. However, white sugar, bad all the time. It's just what it is. And brown sugar is basically white sugar with molasses added back into it. Now you can do some research on molasses. Molasses does have some benefits, but again, it's just one of those things where you don't want to consume a lot of these semi-refined or slightly refined, or however you want to classify these healthier sugars. It's not a license to use them excessively. Now, the number one thing that she says here, I'm sure your intentions pretty much cutting out all sugar from your kid's diet is good, but I tell you, it's just plain stupid. Okay, first of all, a lot of people confuse sugar and sweet. I've never cut sweets out of my kids' diet. My kids understand that a beautifully ripe mango is to die for. Fresh strawberries, fresh raspberries, fresh blueberries, even frozen fruits like that are fantastic. My son for years would grab a huge bowl of frozen wild blueberries and eat them like crazy. He would eat that for dessert. He would just eat it as a snack. My son still makes frozen banana whip in the Champion juicer. He'll just do that. I keep bananas frozen all the time in the freezer, so he'll just do that whenever he wants. If juicer's on the table, it's there, it's readily, it's accessible, he'll make banana whip. My kids do use maple syrup. They will sweeten sometimes tea with honey. They really don't like the flavor of stevia that much. I don't mind the flavor of stevia. I've gotten used to liking it. Some people say, oh, stevia is terrible. It doesn't taste well. It's very shallow, this and that. I don't mind the flavor at all. I understand the benefits of it versus the other lower glycemic sweeteners. So if you think that I cut sweets out of my kids' life, that's totally wrong. I never did that. My kids have a lot of sweets in their diet, but there's not in the super refined form of white sugar. When my wife makes a birthday cake, which she makes it for all their birthdays, and my wife will bake and she will make things, they're all sweetened with alternative sweeteners as opposed to white sugar or brown sugar. Now, palm sugar is one of my favorite sweeteners because of the mineral content, and it's basically just the sap of the coconut blossom that is just then dried and pulverized. So it's a very unrefined. It still is refined, basically. Even olive oil. When you look at olive oil, no, olive oil is not a sweetener. Olive oils are refined because they're taken away from the olive or the seed or the nut, wherever it's coming from. So as soon as we start altering foods, you can consider them refined foods. So I'm not going to lead you down a road and saying, well, this is an unrefined sugar. No, it still is a minimally processed sugar. Honey is a processed sugar, minimally processed sugar. Maple syrup is much more of a process because it's cooked down. It's the sap from a tree. Now, incidentally, you can drink the sap from the water from a maple tree. You can just drink it straight right out of the tree in the springtime, in the late winter, when the water is running, the maple water is running, totally fine. So now here's the big thing, parents. You can't expect your kids, if you want your kids to eat healthy, you have to eat healthy. And if you want your kids to eat healthy on a regular basis, you have to lead by example every single day, every single meal. There's so many times that we went to birthday parties with my kids. We still go to birthday parties. And I'm sorry, I'm just not going to eat cake that other people put, who knows where the eggs come from, who knows where the flour comes from, who knows what chemicals and pesticides, who knows if there's GMOs, who knows what dairy they're putting in it, who knows what sugar, well, I know what sugar they're putting in it, they're putting white sugar in it. There's no reason for me to go to a birthday party and eat birthday cake because it's somebody's birthday, okay? Now, I've taught my kids, you go, you be respectful, this and that, but you don't have to eat what anybody is just giving you because it's a special occasion. You have to teach your kids on a daily basis, and there can't be exceptions. Like, we decided to raise our kids as vegetarians. Plain and simple, they're vegetarians. Now, our restaurant does serve grass-fed meat. It does serve some beef. It serves a lot of everything. We serve a ton of vegetarian food, a lot of vegan food, and that's what a lot of people come to us for. But other people come to us for other reasons. So we taught our kids from a very young age that, you know, if you want to taste meat, you taste the meat that we have approved, or that we have said this is okay meat. You don't go to a friend's house. You don't go to a restaurant. You don't go mix signals of this meat's okay to eat, this meat's not okay to eat. And how do you teach a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old these different things? Where you teach them that, okay, you do it with mom and dad, but mom and dad have to be super strong and have to be on the same page 100% of the time. And I tell you, I don't eat meat, so my kids don't eat meat. I own a restaurant, so I taste what we cook, and if we braise brisket, I will taste a small piece of brisket, but I just don't eat meat just to eat meat, and my kids don't eat meat. We've offered them meat, and they want nothing to do with the meat. Okay, so it's not like we've forced it on them, but we've introduced them to scenarios where, hey, you know, this is a situation, would you like to try a piece of meat? This is a new dish at the restaurant. And they're like, no, they have no interest in trying it. So I hear a lot of parents that just make excuses like, you can't keep your kids isolated, you can't keep your kids isolated. And I hear that over and over. I'm sorry, parents, you're being lazy because you haven't taken the time to properly educate your kids with every meal that you fed them year after year, day after day. Our kids were still educating them about food, and they know a lot about food. 16 years old and 13 years old, they will tell you what's healthy and what's not. Even in school, when my son was in 2nd and 3rd grade, parents would come in for their kids' birthdays, and here's cupcakes and here's cakes, and my son would say, no, I'm fine with a banana. And he even would tell parents that there's white sugar in there. This is somebody who's in 2nd and 3rd grade. He would tell parents in 1st grade, he would tell them, there's sugar in there, and that's not good for you either. I'll stick with my fruit, okay? Parents would come up and say to us, they go, wow, your kids have lots of willpower. And I said, willpower? It's not willpower, it's just we've taught them from right and wrong. We've taught them from day one that this is what's acceptable to eat, and this is what happens when you eat sugar. This is what happens when you eat fried foods. This is what happens when you eat processed foods. So that's the bottom line, is you have to teach your kids on a daily basis. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably the person that's going to make excuses and say, well, my kids, once they're going to go to a friend's house and this and that, my kids sleep over at a lot of friends' houses. They're out a lot. They go away without us. And I got to tell you, my kids, they tell me what they eat. They tell me that my daughter tells me all the time, the food is disgusting at this place, this and that. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat a salad. I can't, I tried to order the pasta sauce without chicken in it, and the waitstaff looked at me like I was weird. She's like, I don't eat meat. I don't eat dairy. I don't do this. So parents, it's your job. It's your job. Stop making excuses. So to the person who left this comment here, I'm sorry. I've taken every precaution. I've done the education. I've taken the time. I understand the ramifications and the consequences. And I wish that more parents would understand that. Now, when kids come to our house, because people have said, oh, what did you do when kids come to your house? I got to tell you, we always have fruit out on our table. Whether it's kiwis, whether it's mangoes, bananas, whether there's cantaloupes in the cooler, cut up pineapple, this and that. When the kids come to our house, they're like, oh, what fruit do you have? What fruit do you have, Mr. Guiliano? What fruit's here? What's fruit? And they eat what's in front of them. And they're super excited to eat mangoes and all these other types of fruits. And you go to their houses and this stuff really doesn't exist, or it exists in a very small amount. And the options for the Oreos and the fudge stripe cookies are in the cabinet. You can't do both, parents. You have to do one, stick to it, educate, and lead by example. You can't eat French fries and expect your kids not to eat French fries. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. Thanks for watching this. If you like my videos, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and definitely pass it on.